made by the GST Council. Joining me now is Satya, Poddar, Partner, Tax and Regulatory Services, EY. Also Sachin, Menon with me. Sachin, let me come to you. You could hear, I don't know whether you heard the conversation, but he was, Roland Folger, President Mercedes-Benz, is clearly exasperated now with what we are hearing right now. The government's proposal, GST's proposal now to increase the cess from 15% to 25%. This will be the second instant, to correct an anomaly after cigarettes. I mean, your first thoughts on this, Sachin?
I think the luxury cars got a little bit of a reprieve in terms of reduction in the rate. Now, with this announcement, it is not only that it is neutralized, but it is the cars are becoming costlier. The luxury cars are becoming costlier in this segment, and which is at least by 1 to 2%. So this is definitely going to hit the luxury car market, and maybe the government's idea is to tax those who can pay more, but this is something which was beyond expectation.
Okay, Satya, Poddar, come in on that, because what Roland Folger was telling us is that why didn't the government do these basic calculations before actually announcing the rates? Suddenly you've announced the rates 1 month into it. Now you're saying that you will pass an amendment to change that. The concern really is that what precedent does this set? Satya, Poddar, your views?
Well, I think it's well recognized that the government has been in a rush to implement GST, and lots of decisions were taken on the 11th hour, on June 28th, 29th, 30th, and the government could not have fully taken into account all the ramifications, revenue consequences of the rates they were choosing. So I fully anticipate this process of adjusting the tax rates to continue for next few months. The system will require both positive and negative adjustments. In some cases, tax rates will go up. In other cases, tax rates will come down. And that is a foregone conclusion. In the two cases which have been noteworthy, there are one for tobacco and one for automobiles now announced by the government. Both of them are very significant in terms of the revenue magnitude. In the case of tobacco, anticipation is that the government increase will lead to 5,000 crore rupees of additional revenues. And the same thing is true for the automobiles. It could be a very significant increase in the tax burden. At the same time, I fully understand the need for industry to have some stability. I think it's not appropriate to make these frequent changes. I think that message of stability will carry more weight in about 3 to 4 months' time once the system stabilizes. But at this stage, I think no matter how pleasant or unpleasant the changes are, how disruptive they are for the industry, we are resigned to the fact that the changes will be made. And it's not only at the rates, but also the base. For example, at the same time, when the government announced a few changes about the automobile sector, they also announced that for the tractors, many of the high tax rates at 28% will come down to 18% tax rate. The tax rate on the job work for the clothing and apparel has been reduced by 18 to 5%. So these are all examples which require very significant fine-tuning. At the same time, I'm fully sympathetic to the need for stability, which Roland was asking about.
Right. Sachin, Menon, do you foresee then more items being, where the rates or the cess could be tinkered with? Because we had a member of the GST Council on our channel on Saturday, and he said the Fitment Committee had actually looked into 100 such items. So, off your head, you would have been doing your own analysis. Which are some of the other items that you feel that there is still an anomaly which may be addressed sooner rather than later?
Well, I think when we, as Satya said, when they announced the rates, I doubt that there was a very detailed analysis was undergone before they announced the rate. And it is impossible for anybody to anticipate which are the sectors which could be impacted, which is unintended. And having done that, it is expected that some point in time there would be some kind of relook at the rates which is already announced. And therefore, these are in the initial period, we would expect there is many more changes happening in the rates For example, the medical care industry, like hearing aids, or even for leasing industry, there was issues with respect to what would be the lease tax on the transaction. So there are various sectors which is affected very badly. And I would imagine that in the next couple of months, we'll be seeing much more changes in the rates, which is already announced. And to me, it look but natural, because the government has to be more rational in fixing the rate and rectify those cases where unintended anomalies happen. So according to me, this development is on course. I only expect that, as Satya rightly said, the industry should not be taken by surprise, that because they are taken long-term, they are made long-term investment in the industries, and this kind of changes which is having impact of increasing the taxes would have an impact on whatever decision taken or any investment which is supposed to be coming in. So I would imagine that the government would be mindful of that.
Right. So industry should not get surprised. More such changes are in the offing, perhaps